Okay, so we are live. The topic for this one, as people will see from the title, is who the fuck knows. Um,
Oh, very, very nice. We've already been 10 seconds into this, and we have been strucken down with the demonetization.
yep. All right. Thanks for joining, folks. Yeah, I hope you
Off
guys
to
have
a
a good
great
night.
start.
All right. Anything you want to say before we shut down the stream?
I think we had a good run.
Alrighty. Cool. Hope that helps somebody. No, I'm just playing. We didn't discuss the topic at all before this, aside from the fact that I told you I was going to tell you one of the most insane things ever, but I'm going to save that for a little bit later, just in case somebody joins. So yeah, we can talk a bit about. I don't know. We did kind of a mini Q&A just between you and me on like knife sharpening type of thing. I did. I guess I don't know. Do you have questions about like the machining process? Because I did like a live stream on my Instagram today, and just answered a bunch of questions on that.
Truthfully, for something like that, it might be cool if you were able to, and it doesn't need to be professional grade quality, but if you could
Good,
just
because it's
film,
me,
yeah, it's not going to be professional grade quality,
right?
but I'll accept home amateur. That's fine. If
That's
you
my
could get
favorite
some,
category.
hey, if you could get like if you could get some shots of like you either sharpening something or machining something that maybe we could like put up on screen and kind of walk through together, that might actually work out really good.
Do we have to hold
Um,
hands?
it's optional. That is
Okay.
optional.
Well, wait till I give consent. Okay.
But I would prefer to.
Okay. Um, yeah, I mean, I could probably do something like that, although I can't do that today. You know,
I
at
say I
least
say only. Oh.
I just mean like
Oh,
at least if you wanted me to like show pictures or something of me sharpening, I can't do that
yeah.
today.
Even if it's just still frame pictures, because it helps. So I know, like I've tried to talk about the engraving process, and when I try and talk about it to either you or whoever I'm talking to, I can tell it's like, what the hell are you talking about? Sometimes, even if I'm like, oh yeah, just it's so simple, and then it's like, well, yes, but actually, no.
Well, yes, but
Uh,
actually you're dumb.
yeah.
Well, I've got this little
Try and keep up.
whiteboard software that I could use. Why does it always fucking do this? Oh
Oh,
my god.
have we lost connection?
No, it's just it always opens it on the second screen in addition to the first screen. Like, dude,
That's kind of dumb. Yeah.
why would I ever like need to do that? Why? Ever.
That is a fantastic question. Perhaps we can explore this in further detail.
Yeah, so um well, it didn't work how I thought it would. So that is the concept of a micro bevel. Okay, now my actual micro bevels and bevels are not quite this disfigured. Um, hey, what can I say? I made this in my image. Okay, um, yeah, this is a micro bevel, and that was the thing you thought was super cool because you made some kind of connection with what you were doing with your engraving.
Yeah, it's like I think it's to reinforce the tip. Basically I do it at a little bit, I sharpen the graver tip at a little bit steeper of an angle, and just like about a hair width, and supposedly from all the instructions I've read online, it makes the tip a little stronger.
Yep. Um, Although it increases the cutting force that is required slightly.
Yeah, which, hey, that's a fine trade-off, considering, I mean, some of the tips I'm using are pretty fine, and so I know I've tried stainless steel, I've tried titanium, and then obviously the softer metals, copper and brass, but I imagine it helps a lot with like the titanium and steel.
So I'm going to be putting a second thing up here. And my question is, which one of these is sharper?
Oh, I'm being tested.
Yeah, it might be a trick question.
All right, well, since I think you already ruined what the answer is going to be, I would say they're both equally sharp.
Right, essentially. Or you can't gather that information, right? Like, but what you have here is the micro bevel is at the same angle, but on the one on the right, it's going to require a lot less cutting force. And so people would be like, oh, this one feels a lot sharper, when it's not necessarily. Like, I would argue that that's not the same thing as like sharpness, right? Um, that's weird. I can see the cursor when I go over the white, but it doesn't show it when I hover over the black, at least on OBS. Um, anyway, it's
So
racist.
is that in part why a razor blade, even if it's pretty, because I've bought some pretty like you can tell they're cheapo razor blades,
Like
but
Gillette
despite
blades.
oh yes, let's hammer that home for anyone that
Yeah.
does stumble upon this episode. Please just do not buy Gillette if you have any self-respect, male or female for that matter.
Or anything in between those two.
Yes, anything. We will be fully inclusive. I am
We are
not going to
intersex
judge.
inclusive.
I am not going to judge when it comes to the stupidity of purchasing Gillette products.
Okay, well, I am. I'm going to judge. So,
Oh, okay, that's fine.
yeah.
Oh,
I would, you know, I'm a
and
judgmental person.
hopefully you don't have any stock in Procter and Gamble, but I don't. So yeah, it goes for them as well since they own Gillette.
Do they? That
They do.
seems like a pretty dumb thing to do.
Hey, they should probably get rid of that, or
Yeah.
if they want to keep them, hey.
Or they could just hang themselves. That would also work. But this is
Ah.
why, like, a kitchen knife, even when it's dull, will cut a lot of things much easier or much more easily than, I don't know, your average pocket knife, right? So, you know,
Oh
I
well, just to finish the point though, like so even that, so like it's an imaginary fight. Shitty ground razor blade boy versus diesel. Let's just say fixed blade knife sharpened really well.
um just for the required cutting force, definitely the shitty razor blade would be much easier.
Nice.
Yeah. Um that's why you always use a razor blade when you're dismembering, small animals and stuff. So,
I do not have expertise in this field, so
okay. All right.
I'll take your word for it.
Well, I'm happy to consult for you.
So like why, so if that's the case, right? If it's the case that you can have it be equally sharp, but if you have one knife that requires less cutting force, then why aren't more knives, or do you notice a lot of knives kind of fall into like a Goldilocks zone of it's going to require this much cutting force and this is going to be the general thickness that we're going to go with, and we're just going to slap that onto a wide array of knives?
Well, generally, it comes down to the strength that you need, right? Like, there's a lot more material on, like, your average pocket knife blade, right? And so, like, a lot of people are going to treat their knives like shit, especially if they're the kind of people that don't know much about knives. Like, they're just going to be like, oh, let me just buy this knife and I'll just carry it around with me and use it everywhere. I'll use it to try to cut this rock in half because I'm an idiot. Those people, like, the thicker blades are going to withstand that type of person much longer than like a kitchen knife will. And so it comes down to the strength, and that's, you can also just see it in the flexibility of a lot of steak knives and stuff.
That's actually,
Does that answer the question?
it sort of does. It sort of does, because I don't know. I feel like at least, but battle songs, I know they kind of have to deal with the whole weight distribution thing. But it seems like to me, battle songs, at least the thickness of the blade is really consistent from battle song to battle song. Usually, when I look at it, it's the thickness of the handles that varies quite a lot. There's only been a few outliers that have had a really thick blade for a battle song that I've noticed, at least.
Well, do the Rep and Alpha Beast have the same thickness blade?
They're pretty damn close.
But they're not the
They're very
same.
close. Ah, okay. All right. All right. All right.
I'm just being a douche because I bought some bushings. I was going to redo the bushings on my Alpha Beast, and then I discovered that it is not the same thickness blade.
How far off is it?
15 thousandths.
Is that a lot?
I mean, it's 0.125 versus 0.14. So yeah, I mean, it depends on. Certainly for bushings, it's a hell of a lot. Yeah, that's 7.5 times like the extra material that comes on the replicant size bushings. You know, like those start at 0.127, and theoretically you get them down to 0.1255 or 126 or something, right? So,
Repeating, of course.
well, of course, you try that little fucking bar on top, so that you don't have to fill up notebooks and notebooks of this, numbers over and over again. Unless you like doing that.
So I'm actually curious though, like knowing this, why more Balisong makers? I wonder if they take this into consideration, or is it just like, hey, like I honestly don't know. I imagine they ask themselves, do we want this to actually be a good cutting tool? Because I imagine like for it to survive drops, like let's say you unfortunately you're flipping it outside and it just goes edge down onto some concrete. I imagine the blade that required more cutting force would stand up to that kind of thing a little bit better.
Um, I mean, yeah, I would say so, because that would mean that it, gets thicker faster, kind of thing. Like it's a thicker blade. Um, like you can have. Let me just erase
Like, well,
this.
okay, another good question. Would that help with shock absorption, or would that actually, or
Not really.
no?
I mean, if anything, a skinny blade would potentially absorb the shock better,
Oh, because it just flex with it, right?
right? As opposed to just like removing fucking metal or squishing it. Um, so I'm just drawing a few things here. So these blades or grinds have the same thickness at that bottom point, okay, which should show up for you soon. How far behind is it? Like, is it behind enough that I should share this on Discord as well?
That's just about 10 seconds. They're fully drawn now.
Okay. Um.
Okay,
So
so we're assuming they're both the same thickness at the tip, but at the bevel, they're different thickness.
no, they're the same thickness at the top and at the bottom, but the difference is over how far,
Oh,
like,
okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I
right.
see what you're saying.
And so the one on the left is going to feel like it's a lot sharper than the one on the right.
So, but again, like, why was so aside from just durability in general, is there any other reason, or is that just the only reason? Like, you're going to determine that main bevel just on durability needs, and then from there, you're just going to go straight to okay,
Well, you can save
now.
money if you do it the way on the right, because you remove less material, depending on, I mean, assuming that the profile of the blade remains the same. The one on the right would mean that a huge part of the blade would be the flat, right? Just the part that you don't do anything to. Whereas the one on the left, you would be machining a lot of that material off.
Oh, okay, so that's interesting to think about as well, because that's something I.
Hello? Oh boy. Hello?
Oh, you cut out for a second
Yeah,
on me.
that was on my end. My Discord just decided it didn't want to do anything. Um,
Are we still good stream wise?
Fuck if I know, probably. I don't know. We'll find out. It still says like it's streaming, but who the hell knows? Um, so I'm gonna redraw those same blades. Oh god.
Flat. Oh,
What is going on?
Oh, oh.
Can you hear me fine?
I can hear you. I guess Susan didn't like our conversation and is actively DDoSing us.
This is annoying. Okay, I'm redrawing those same blades kind of, but in a slightly different way to illustrate my point from before.
Just to finish my point. So with knives that have a bigger flat and a small bevel, that's very clear that that's what's going on. Would that possibly be an indicator of a lower quality knife, or is that just something you'd want to take on a case by case?
I would definitely I'd have some questions if I were looking if somebody were doing a knife and they had it look like it on the right. You know, I'll add some flats on this other one too, and we'll kind of just so because it wasn't really clear necessarily what I meant by saying you had to remove less material on the one on the right, just how I had drawn it before. But I would have some questions because it's like why the stream might not be working. I don't know. YouTube is bitching about it.
Leave it to YouTube. Leave it to YouTube.
Yeah. But the one on the right, it's like, yeah, I would have some pretty major questions about
Such as
why the fuck they designed it that way. There's no reason on a knife for it to be like on the right. And I've seen knives like this. In fact, I was sitting there arguing with this guy saying like this is a ridiculous knife because this guy basically was like trying to show off his knife kind of thing. And I was basically pointing out that, well, it's not necessarily a good thing to have the bevel be so steep like that. And he's sitting there like arguing with me about it. It's like, what the hell, man? Like,
well, so what are some of like those things that you'd notice when using that knife that would make it just objectively bad?
It would not cut anything. Like it would just, you would have a hard time cutting cardboard with it because it would just be so like blunt. Like that kind of shape is what you would put on like a fucking hatchet.
Well, that's actually what a hatchet like just looks like, right? Is that the same? Like if you exaggerated it, that'd basically be just the hatchet, like on the ends that are sharpened. That's more or less what you'd be looking at.
I mean, basically, yeah, but that's a much different,
Well, the
use
tool's
case.
completely different. Yeah.
Right. So it's like unless you're planning to use your knife like a hatchet, which again, I have my own questions about if you're doing that. Like there's no reason for that on a knife. So I would never ever buy a knife like that. I don't care what
Unforgivable.
Yeah, no, that to me it shows a lack of understanding. Like I just don't
could it be a question? Could it be redeemed if it was hollow ground?
No, that'd be even worse if it were hollow ground.
Why so? I actually don't understand.
Well,
why.
hollow grind is actually not a good grind in most cases. It's good to a certain depth, kind of. And I'll try to draw this here a little bit. I don't have my thing hooked up, so this might be a complete train wreck. But you can still hear me fine, right?
You're still good.
Okay, good. So essentially what you're doing when you can have multiple micro bevels, okay? So you can have it go like this, go like this, go like this, okay? Now this, obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you can have multiple micro bevels like this, and in a way, that's what you're doing with the knife grind, right? The knife grind is reducing material, and then you've got the bevel, and then you've got the micro bevel, right? It's the same concept. But what you're doing is approximating a convex curve, okay? Like, this is why a convex grind is the best grind. But if you're just doing, like, a flat grind, like a series of flat grinds, you can only approximate it, right? But it's that smooth transition kind of, it's like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I'm trying to think of a way to explain it that would make sense, just like
So you're saying the one
from
that
listening to it.
you just showed on the left would feel like a smoother cutter, that particular shape.
I'm gonna draw another one right next to it here. It would feel like a smoother shape than the one on the right.
Okay, it's just drawing for me now because I'm actually curious because again, like this kind of ties over into the graver sharpening that I'm doing. I'm just curious, like, okay, well, if this would affect a knife tip in this way, I wonder if there are some similarities.
It definitely would be applicable. I just
All
don't
right,
know
so we
whether
have.
there would be an effective way to do it on a V-shaped thing like that, depending on which side you're like doing the grinds on and stuff.
So there's a particular shape called an onglet graver,
Sounds kind of
and
pretentious.
it's a bit pretentious, and it took me a little while to figure out exactly what the heck was going on there. But if you can imagine, the it's basically a V shape, except it looks a little bit like the one on the left, where you take away a little bit of material, so it almost has a curved appearance. Um, as it gets closer to the tip. So it's a V and then it kind of tapers into um, a more, I guess, like bowed out V shape.
All right, I don't really follow, but that's not unusual.
It looks a lot like the one on the left. Like I'm saying, like the actual grind that I'm putting onto it looks a lot like the one on the left. As it gets closer to the tip, that's what it's looking like.
Okay. Um, well, I mean, if you can do a convex edge on it, that would be better. Um, but it's going to depend a lot on how it's designed, whether you could actually effectively do that. But yeah, like a convex grind is best because you start at the steepest angle, and then as you get farther along, it's just slowly transitioning to a more a shallower angle or whatever. So, you know, that's the main purpose with the convex grind. But a hollow grind is the opposite of that. So you're starting with, let's see. If you think of the tip of a hollow grind, right, it goes like this. I'm going to do my best here. I'm going to just, I wonder if there's a way to do like a mirroring thing. I have no idea. Okay. So that's kind of what you have is like the tip of the knife is almost like what we had just been looking at, although on a smaller scale. And then it starts getting like steeper and steeper. So as it's going up here, it's getting harder and harder for it to, it has to deflect the material that it's trying to cut more. And then it gets to the steepest part and it's like kicking way off to the side, right? So the actual direction that the material that you're cutting is going is that way, right? And because it's going to naturally want to close back in, it's then going to like curve to the side of the knife. Whereas with the convex shape, you start out with, it kicks it off to the side. God damn it. And then, like, as it's going along, in the same way that the material is naturally wanting to, like, smooth out and go up the blade, it's, like, facilitating that. Like, the grind actually is, like, working with you there, as opposed to you're, like, fighting it. I don't know if that makes any sense at all.
So, I guess, because to me, like, I actually think I've a couple hollow ground knives, and some of those feel relatively smooth while cutting, like pretty smooth. So I'm wondering if at a certain point, like it matters. So like if the blade is, I guess, height wise, offers enough clearance on that hollow grind, if you wouldn't really notice it being an issue.
You mean if you're not cutting all the way into something?
That Yeah, that sounds about what I'm going for here.
Well, if you're only cutting, I'm going to draw a line on the screen here, but if you're only cutting this deep, I should be careful how I draw stuff. Oh shit. But you know, if you're only cutting that deep, then you aren't necessarily going to encounter the negative like effects of a hollow grind when you're only cutting that deep. Right? But when you're starting, like when you're cutting deep enough that like you're starting to really get up on the grind, like down to this level, you're now starting to encounter problems. That's
So it
the center
depends
of the knife.
on the task.
Right. So, yeah, it really depends how deeply you're cutting.
That is actually pretty good to know, because I always assumed in my mind that just right off the bat a hollow grind was a sign of a knife being of higher quality, but it kind of makes sense that it really depends on what you're using it for.
Right, and to be honest, like hollow grinds are not that bad. It's just a limitation that it's probably good to be aware of, you know, like a downside to be aware of. That's all.
Right.
Um, a lot of custom knives will have a hollow grind.
That is interesting.
Yeah, so
You think that's by just because I know, like, I've noticed it. It seems like a lot of custom knives will also feature things like carbon fiber or titanium. So I'm wondering if that's like just a snobbiness thing where, just the culture is, I want carbon fiber, I want titanium, and I want a hollow grind, and some blade steel that nobody's heard of.
um there's definitely an aspect of it that's snobbery, right? Like people want to say that they have like a a knife with such and such materials. Um but I don't know. Like I think hollow grind is just maybe people I mean it more comes down to the equipment that the person has, right? You can get a belt grinder that you can put different attachments on a belt grinder, right? So you can put a wheel on, like an 8-inch or a 10-inch wheel or something. But you also could put like a little flat platen and then push the knife up against it, and that would give you a flat grind. You would have to have some kind of, you know, I don't know. I don't know how you would end up doing it if you could just have a platen that had some kind of soft material behind it. I don't think that would you would have to do it maybe with no backing. I don't know. I don't know how you would do a convex grind. But the point is it's kind of how your machine is set up, right? So somebody might just be used to doing hollow grinds, you know? I don't know, maybe.
Oh, so it might just be the maker's preference.
Right. Like I don't think that in most cases somebody who's buying a custom knife probably doesn't know enough to really understand and actually request a specific type of grind. They're probably just going to ask for a blade shape. That's what you would have people do, is they'd be like, oh, I want Tonto. Like I haven't had a single person ask me what kind of grind is on the Spitfire blade. And it's a hollow grind.
All right. We're getting that rich boy club. All right, that's not.
Oh yeah, totally.
Where's my yacht, sir?
Oh, I parked it out back.
Oh, geez. No, it's interesting to kind of think about, because I look at a lot of the Battle Song blade shapes that are offered, and most of the time it seems like it's pretty straightforward, where it's just got flat bevel and then the edge. That's kind of
Yeah, I suppose.
that's like the main formula I see most typically. There's a few, like when you start looking at the custom makers, where you start seeing some hollow grinds be introduced. But aside from that, I don't think that many makers stray too far from the formula.
Well, again, I don't know. I don't really think that like hollow grind is something that you only find on like custom knives. Like, just the random buck 110 or something that you would buy at Walmart or something is going to have a hollow grind on the blade.
I have some buck 110s that I plan on engraving. I wasn't sure if that was actually a hollow grind or not. Full disclosure, I feel a little ashamed.
How? I mean, like how do you feel ashamed? It doesn't matter. Like if it's concave, it's a hollow grind.
Like much like the interior of my head, a bit
Right.
bit on the hollow side.
Right. There's a lot of air. Like I sometimes I'll be talking to you and I'll like hear this faint echoing in the background. So I know that at least my words are making it into your head,
They're resonating with me, perhaps.
Resonating? Resignating? Unbelievable.
Uh,
Um,
but no,
yeah.
I wasn't quite sure, just because I'm like, I had opened it once and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna engrave this later. So I didn't like do a close inspection on it. But that is good to know.
I feel like you're
That
making excuses.
I'm doing what I have to.
I'm compensating, man. Okay, I'm gonna tell you this insane shit that happened yesterday, okay? Even though there's not really anybody listening. So
In the follow-up episodes, I see after we post, sometimes people will watch.
do they?
So sometimes they do.
Wow. Well, hey, if somebody gets to this, you're gonna hear the craziest shit ever. So I work part-time at a golf course, okay? And it's a really nice golf course. It's in a small town. It's kind of up in the mountains. But we generally get you get more urbanite types at the golf course on the weekend when they drive up from Phoenix. Okay.
Well, yeah, that's with a lot of places. But I get what you're saying. Like I've noticed, like when I've gone to golf courses, even if it's in some quiet town, you'll get more out of towners coming there on like the weekends and whatnot. I've noticed that as well.
Right, but basically, it's like it's a relatively nice, like, place. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very like I don't know, upscale place, right? Like, you would not have a lot of ghetto shit happening here. However, so I'm trying to decide where I want to start on this. Basically, so we have 2 staff carts, okay? We have 76 golf carts total. One of them is in maintenance. So we have 75 down in the garage, basically. And 2 of them are staff carts. And they say staff on them and everything. So, and they're sped up. They're like supercharged. So we can go flying around corners on like 2 wheels and stuff. But were these two women that were on the porch, like by the restaurant, and they were just talking or whatever, and I didn't really think anything of it, obviously. And as they're leaving, I try to like strike up a conversation and just like do the standard customer service shit, right?
Right.
Well, they seemed kind of drunk, but they said something to the effect of like, "You think we could get away with taking one of these golf carts or something?" Like joking about
Now,
stealing it.
now, full disclosure, I've had this thought. I've
What?
had this thought. I've had the thought of, man, how fun would it be just to drive off with one of these? Because they honestly are a load of fun. They're stupid, but a golf cart, especially if they were actually drunk, boy oh boy, what fun can be had in that golf cart should not be underestimated.
Right. Although I don't know that I think it would be a good idea to do that.
No, no,
Um,
I'm not endorsing. This is not advice. This is not certainly a call to action. This is just I can imagine I would have a good time.
right, especially if you're drunk and you've got your friends with you, right? But what, like, I thought it was kind of a weird line of joking, but I just kind of like rolled with it, kind of thing. And but it was like kind of even awkward. Like I wasn't even really sure. I just said something to the effect of like, "Oh, trust me, you don't want to steal these. They're, garbage." Blah blah blah. And but with like they weirdly like they stuck with that line of joking. Like they wouldn't switch to a different topic. So I'm like, well, that's odd, right? And then I saw them out there standing in the parking lot for at least 15 minutes. Like they were just standing out there talking to each other. Um, and I was like, whatever. Well, I'm glad they're gone, kind of thing. But then when I get done at the end of the day, we only have 74 carts, and we're missing a staff cart, right? And I like remember, like I swear to God, I had 2 staff carts in the evening, and this will matter later, right? But yeah, now I only have 1 staff cart, and so
You
it's at
wouldn't
this.
give them someone wouldn't give them a staff cart to
Oh
go out
no,
and go. Yeah.
no, no, no. Especially not at that time of day. Like the only person who would
Now,
take it would be an employee.
now knowing this information, how much persuasion would it take to get into a staff cart? I imagine many
You
golf courses have a staff cart.
you would not you would not get in one.
Say
It's
say
nothing
you're
against you, but they don't want to drive around in the slow cart. That's what it's about.
but like say you're not working at any golf course and we hypothetically were having a conversation about a price to drive the staff cart.
I don't know. I would never take a bribe kind of thing. Just me personally.
More
But
of a favor.
look, like I'm just saying, if you're my friend, then I don't know. Maybe I mean, if you've played the course, then I guess like it's not that big of a deal. But the reason why you wouldn't get one is because like even the staff fight over who's gonna have the staff cart for the day,
Oh,
right?
okay,
Like
I see.
there's a big difference in speed, and so when you're trying to get around places, you don't want to drive the slow one because once you are used to driving the fast one, the slow ones are like so slow.
Now, is there some secret like turbo boost I can turn on in the regular cart that will allow me to go as fast
You can
as
buy one of the little easy go computers. Like the port is the same on all of them, so you can just show up to a golf course, plug that shit in, and turn the speed to the max, and then just turn it back down when you're done, I suppose.
So this is like a pay to play type situation. I have to bring my own.
Well, how much do one of those things cost? Let me, because I've wondered this myself.
If it was like, because like I'm looking at it from a lifetime perspective of playing golf. If it was like $500, that might be worth it.
Um,
I'd consider it for 500.
Give me a second. Oh God, I should not have Googled this.
Oh, it's pretty cheap. It sounds like it's pretty cheap.
No, but I just found out how I can change the speed on something else, and it's like, oh God. Give me a second here. Oh shit. This thing that you can buy is advertising that it can get you from 13 miles per hour to 32.
Ah, that's fantastic. Come on.
Jesus Christ. I don't think I'd feel safe going 32 on one of those things. The benefit is when you're basically, we have the maximum speed on ours is 14.5. We have we have old cars. We're getting new ones this upcoming season. So God, what is it called? What do you call that fucking? Oh, probably the RxV programmer. This looks like what I used. Oh no. Dude, it's under $600.
Okay, so right. I'm looking at it from a lifetime perspective and a lifetime of going faster on a golf cart.
I mean, I would not do it at my course. Because like it's not, we have really, really dangerous cart paths compared to almost any other golf course. Like there are some pretty serious drop offs. Like to give you
Like,
an
is
idea,
this?
a few months ago, an employee ended up, the brakes stopped working on their cart essentially, and they went into this ravine. They broke their back in 3 places, like their foot was like hanging off, and they needed special like equipment to get this person out of the ravine.
Oh my god.
Right, so like you would not want to try this on our golf course. But if it were any other golf course, and it's like if I were going to be out there for a while, I mean, $600 isn't that much money in the grand scheme of
It's
things.
I mean, imagine, right? Like imagine, especially if you're like able to play golf regularly, like you're an elderly person you're retired.
Yeah,
Like
you'd
if
be able to, it would take you 2 minutes at most to make this change.
your money would be made back within, in my mind, because you typically will play for, I don't know how, like when I would play golf, even if I had a cart, it could take like especially 18 holes, could take anywhere from 2 to 3 hours at least. Um, even with cart, because sometimes you just got to wait for people to finish up on holes. So, I mean,
Oh
come on,
man, cloning feature and 64 megabit internal memory allows multiple parameter files to be stored. So you could literally have different dude, I'm just like, don't do it at our golf course, because if I find out, like, you're gonna be in big trouble. But
Yeah, I'm just gonna fly over to your
I'm
state
just
and
saying, if I were at some random golf course and I were going there a lot and it were flat, dude, the chances that you would get caught doing this are so fucking low.
yeah, because it's kind of hard. Like someone wouldn't be looking for someone to be altering the speed of a golf cart.
Well, I mean, it doesn't even really matter. Like, you can just have a bag there. It's like nobody's gonna, dude. Like, I'm sure even half the employees at my place don't know what that little thing even looks like. I only know what it looks like because I saw it there one day, and I'm like, I'm gonna see what options there are, and I plugged it in just to see what you could do, and that's how I figured out what the max speed was and all that.
Let me show you its features.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, you wouldn't want to do that on our course. But anyway, so we're missing a staff cart, right? And it's dark now. I mean, and it's at the point where it's like, it's dark enough that if you were an employee and you were out there on the staff cart, you're getting pretty damn close to the time where you have to call like your boss and say, hey, I stayed out way later than I was allowed to, and I'm stuck out on the golf course. Can you help me out? That's not a good conversation to be having, right?
Nope.
So I think that's very unlikely, especially because I mean, I generally keep track of who's on the course. You know what I mean? Like if I have friends on the course or something. So it wasn't that. And I called my boss and I was like, if you don't know where the second staff cart is, you should get down here like immediately, because, and I would not have said that if I hadn't just been told by these two women that they wanted to steal a golf cart, right? And
Right.
he gets down and he's like, well, did you count? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I counted twice. I went through the entire garage looking to see if maybe I'd put the staff cart away in place of a normal one or something. But even then, we're still missing a cart, right? But no, it's actually gone. And so, he had texted the maintenance guy and said, hey, did you take a cart? And he was waiting to hear back or whatever. And it's like, eventually he ended up calling the police. So the police ended up showing up, and I gave him some fucking statement thing or whatever. And then, like, after all of that, supposedly the maintenance guy had taken it and had put it in whatever maintenance shed thing. And he said he told the outside guy. Nobody told me anything. Nobody put anything on the board where you're supposed to mark if you've taken a cart, kind of thing. And I like remember having 2 carts. So unless I'm remembering that incorrectly, it's just, I think that there's at least a chance at this point that he didn't even understand what my boss was asking. And the cart is actually going to just turn up somewhere, just ditched somewhere. But I don't know. I'm waiting to. I'm not going to believe that they found the cart until I see it. Because, dude, I've never had anybody joke with me like that, right? And especially in such a weird way where they were like, wouldn't switch to a different topic, And
was this something that went on for like more than 30 seconds? Because that's
yes.
something like I joke about, but like, hey man, like,
yeah, this went on for a minute and a half or 2 minutes.
I mean, like, say I just like went off the golf course with this, would you like, what would happen? And like, we kind of just like joke about, like, nah, don't worry about it. I'm not doing anything like that.
Well, yeah, but if I joke in a way that like is, I mean, you can tell like it's just, I don't know. I didn't find it funny really, and it seemed awkward. I don't know. But
I mean, are you sure
like,
it wasn't you?
Dude, but I'm serious.
No,
like, think of how long 2 minutes of trying to deal with somebody who just keeps making awful jokes is. Like, that's what it was like. Like, it really stuck out to me. Right?
I mean, try doing that for a full live stream for 1 or 2 hours.
Wow. But
imagine it.
But you see what I mean, right? Like, that, no one has ever said that kind of thing to me before, and I've also never had a cart go missing, right?
Yeah, it is weird though, because I mean, it's just suspicious that that's the words that were said prior to
a cart disappearing.
Hours prior to
less than an hour. Actually, it was like an hour and 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah, so a little over an hour prior to that very event occurring. I mean,
right.
I'm no detective, but
yeah, so I personally I don't really buy that they actually have the cart. I think there is probably a miscommunication. I can't. And here's the other weird coincidence. I had been talking to my boss about getting some certain security measures set up, like related to cameras and all of that. And I'd been like trying to convince him to get this because we've had people stealing some other stuff. I'll tell you off stream. But I had been trying to convince him of this. Literally, again, this is like an hour before these things go missing. And then, of course, the police get there and ask if we have any of said security measure, right? And it's like that, dude, there are so many like strange things there like that. Like, it's like, I've never talked to my boss about that kind of thing on any other day, right? Like, I've never talked to him about it on any other day. And no one has ever asked if we have XYZ security measures or whatever on any other day. Like, there are so many fucking things that would have to line up perfectly. Although that is more of a coincidence that I can accept, right? Where we were talking about that and it just happened to be on the day where somebody stole something, right?
One of
But
my favorite sayings, and I think you'll enjoy it too, is how many coincidences need to occur before it's no longer a coincidence?
right. That's how I see it's like I don't know, man. I find it really hard to just accept that like two random drunk women wouldn't shut up about stealing a golf cart and they were even asking me like how fast they went and stuff. Like I swear to God, like they were asking me like these questions and I wasn't answering them because it just was so bizarre to me. It's like it's weird, man. Um and so for all of that to happen and then for the cart to disappear and then I'm told it's just a maintenance guy had taken it and he forgot to tell somebody. I don't know, man. That is wild to me. That's a hell of a fucking coincidence.
I mean, is it at all possible that maintenance guy found it discarded somewhere?
No, no, he would say something. I don't know that anybody's looked for it yet. Like I don't know if that guy was even on the clock or on the job today. Although I did show up to see if the cart was there and it wasn't. So maybe maintenance
Mm.
still has it. I don't know. Um, I don't know, man. I find that really tough to believe. Am I insane on that? Like that to me seems like such an unbelievable coincidence that I don't know, dude.
It's one of those things where you're like, what? Like, I wouldn't want to be working that day, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is just weird. It was so surreal. It's like I cannot believe that I was just that somebody just walked up and told me they wanted to steal a golf cart and then took a fucking golf cart. Like who the fuck does that?
I mean, the problem is, like, I'm pretty sure most adults have had the thought who have played golf have considered stealing said golf cart. However, I do not think that most of those adults have told the golf staff that, "Hey, wouldn't it be funny if we stole this?" Like, that's
I don't
just
know, maybe
not.
like I've never
It would be
considered stealing a golf cart.
it would be thrilling. It would be thrilling, and you know that it would be.
I mean, maybe I think it'd be hella sketchy. Like I don't know, man. If I were on a cart and I found out it was stolen, I would piece the fuck out of there so fucking quickly. Like I do not want to get a criminal record just because I got drunk and, couldn't hold my
Well,
beer.
no, I'm saying if I knew that it would be consequence free and that I could just take it for a joyride around the town, that would be an amazing experience. But knowing all the consequences that are tied to
They're
stealing
not
a
as fun
golf
on the
cart,
road. It's really
oh,
boring on the road. Yeah, they everything feels really slow.
unless you can kick it up to that 35.
Yeah, that would be more fun. But there are
The
other things that I would not trust on those. Like, look,
braking system,
if
perhaps.
EasyGo wants to sponsor us, that'd be great. Okay, and if EasyGo does want to do that, I would suggest go ahead and mute the stream for the next little while. Okay, the EasyGo golf carts that we have are janky as fuck, and you don't necessarily know that when you're not driving them literally all day because you it's only one out of a certain number of times where something will happen that's like Jesus Christ, you know.
Yeah.
But it does, and especially when it involves hills and stuff, you know.
Hmm.
And so, but I mean, once you learn kind of what they'll do, it becomes less of an issue because you kind of just get used to expecting it. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, we had somebody who blew a tire on their cart a few days ago, and I mean the tire was like off the rim kind of thing. Uh, that you would not want to have happen at 30 something miles an hour.
Well,
There
in that type of thing, like if my tire blew like in my car, I'd be like, okay, well, I could probably not die in this situation, but on a golf cart, I might be a little bit scared.
Yeah, I would be too. um I think anybody who's listening, if you haven't driven a golf cart like a lot, you don't understand how fucking sketchy those things can be. You just don't. Like, most people do not realize how. Look, this mom was letting her fucking little, like, 11-year-old son be her designated driver on the golf course. Like, literally, she let her little kid drive this fucking cart around while she got hella drunk. How they got home, I don't know. Right? It's not, but
You probably don't want to know.
the thing is, like, I wouldn't have thought anything of it, right? I was kind of like, huh, that kid's kind of young to be driving that thing, right? I mean, I thought that, but that was it. But, like, she was, like, weirdly defensive. Like, I'm just sitting there saying, like, hey, how was it, blah blah blah, and she's like, oh yeah, I'm just letting him, practice because he's 15. And I'm like, what? Like, I asked how it was, right? Like, it's just, the whole thing was bizarre. And it's like, okay, and also that kid is not 15, okay? Or that kid has, like, dwarfism, okay? Like, what the fuck? Like, the whole thing was bizarre. And then I went to, when I was cleaning it, I saw the beer, and I'm like, jeez, man, like, what is
Oh my god,
going
people don't even
on?
have the. I'd at least throw it away.
Yeah, like, the whole thing was so odd.
What is see? That's what I don't get. I don't get people, right? Because like every time I would go in a golf cart, maybe I'd leave the golf cart if I was having like a really shitty experience. I'm like, fuck this. Let me have the person who's gonna take this cart next, see how fucked
Yeah,
up this
Doug,
game
get to
looks.
fucking work.
Yeah, like clean this shit up. Here, pick up this fucking
Make
cart. Here's some
yourself
fucking,
useful.
and maybe I'd stuff some broken teas in like the little storage box that they'd have.
Oh,
I'd be
you know what
like,
you need to do? Put a broken tea in the fucking the cup holders that have a little hole in the bottom, and they'll have to sit there and fucking try to get it. Dude, that's what you do if you want to be a cunt, okay? Now you know.
well, no, I don't want to be mad. No, I don't want to be that. But I'm just like, fuck this. Fuck your golf course. Fuck this. I had a bad game. Talk about you demonetizing the video. Um, here
Yeah,
I
I'm a
am
one up you, Doug. Sit the fuck down.
dropping the f bombs. But no, I mean sometimes you just have a bad day and you're like, I don't care. Clean
You
up my
had a
broken
bad
tees.
day.
Like the least you can do is clean up some broken tees. Like I'm sorry, this is what you're doing.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, but I don't know.
I'm not trying to be like overly. I'm not trying to like open a Coca Cola, like pour it on the seat.
Well, right, but like, I don't know that changes. Like, I wouldn't just. I don't know. I can't imagine that if I had a fucking, like, seventh grader, that I would be mad at my golf game to the point where I would get fucking wasted and have my seventh grade kid drive me around the golf course. Like, that's just so weird to me.
You should probably just be mini golfing at that point
I mean, yeah, but it's just, the whole thing
because
is,
because then the kid could enjoy it, and then you could enjoy getting drunk, and then maybe someone could
yeah.
instead of
Here's a
like
trick.
driving.
If you're gonna do that, don't get, like, way, like, super fucking defensive and just draw a shit ton of attention to it. Like, that makes anybody suspicious. Like, what the fuck? So, I don't know.
It's kind of like because I worked in an elementary school for a little while. It's kind like I've had some kids tell me some like things where I'm like, oh God, is this a future sociopath? Like I don't know. Should I report this to someone?
Yeah, like,
Like
my
I
puppies
s-
keep
you
disappearing.
you want to talk about, oh God, no, fortunately it wasn't that bad, but you want to talk about a semi crazy story.
Yeah, yeah, tell me.
I had a kid who this is a kindergarten, maybe he was in first grade, but like a first grade kid tell me that he had a dream about killing me with a sword.
Okay, but okay. To be fair, he might not be the only one. Not that I have ever thought of killing you with.
No, that makes it so much better. No, I had a what were first graders now? They'd be like 7 or 8, or would they be?
How the fuck would I know?
I don't know. But the point is, I had basically a 7-year-old tell me that he had a dream about killing me with a sword.
Well, at least it wasn't
W-
with a knife.
Yeah, I guess
Gotta look at
suppose
the
a small
positives, man.
suppose a small child is going to kill you. How terrible would it be if that was via a stabbing? Oh God.
Dude, can you just imagine like bleeding out and like watching a fucking 7-year-old like walking away with a bloody knife as you fucking pass out? Can you
Ah,
imagine dying that way? Oh my god.
that's brutal. But no, that really messed me up for a little while. I'm like, I don't think I should report this kid. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna do
nah.
that because I was like, maybe he's just like, because like he would always tell me stories about how he's playing Minecraft. I'm like, oh yeah. Like I don't like that game, but whatever. Yeah,
Is
oh
this
yeah,
somebody
super.
that you're like related to or somebody that you were
No,
like
I just
tutoring or
I
something?
no, it was like a group like before school thing, um, where kids would come in, their parents would drop them off before school started, and we'd have board games. We would have like we'd go outside for a little bit if they wanted to go on the playground, if they wanted to. Uh, I don't know. We had like wiffle ball bats, frisbees, whatnot.
God, can you imagine how bad of a teacher I would be? Like, I'd be sitting there, like, my PowerPoint wouldn't be working. I'd be like, this fucking piece of shit!
Yeah, I think you'd be a good substitute teacher. You would not be a good full
Yeah,
time.
yeah, like, when it's only a day and the odds that something will go terribly wrong are not as high, yeah, I'd be a fantastic teacher. Fucking, like, sitting there playing Call of Duty and accidentally, like, remove my headphones and there's fucking all sorts of gunfire coming out of my
Well, that,
speakers.
that that was another crazy thing. I had to deal with stories of kids being like, "Why can't we get Halo or Call of Duty?" And I'm like, "Well, the reason why we can't get that is because not because like I don't think it was actually ever because they couldn't play the game. I think it was mainly because the ease of it then leading to, well, can we play online would be far too enticing to
Why
these kids.
not?
Oh, why can't we play online? I'm like, meanwhile, I'm thinking, have you played online before?
Yeah, the sad part is they have. That's why the fucking 7-year-old was considering killing you.
I'm like, I've heard what they say. I have engaged in
In
said
in all
banter.
seriousness, there's something to be said for that. Like, I don't know what the implications are, but it's like the number of like I'll be playing a CS:GO game with like my friends and we'll just get put on a team and there's some fucking 10-year-old. It's like that's you would never really have that happen before this online gaming thing. And now all of a sudden, you're just randomly throwing like very young children into a game with other people who don't care enough about that kid to not cuss or anything,
Oh,
right?
you have these losers who are online just all day. It's the only thing that they do. And like, look, I'm pretty decent at video games. I'll actually
Okay,
say
I just want to say as a disclaimer, he says he's good at video games, but he doesn't even play games on PC, right? So he's good at being a
uh
console
I
gamer.
play Warhammer 2. I do
Okay?
play Warhammer 2. And full disclosure for though, if anyone is watching this stream at this point who has made it this far, in Warhammer 2, I have played the Marcus Wolfhart campaign on very hard difficulty with very hard battle difficulty. And boy, let me tell you, was that a very unfun experience, but I did it.
Well, he also
And
is telling me about how the sky in his world is like pink, so you know.
I'll also have you know that I have beaten quite a few players in the multiplayer battle, and one of them happened to be like, I don't know what the official title is, but it's like a game moderator. So I whooped some moderator's ass in a multiplayer battle, and I felt pretty good about it. I'm like, fuck you, peasant.
Wow, that's violent. But yeah, but you see what I mean though, right?
Oh,
Like
it's
in terms
it's
of
disturbing. No, it's disturbing. It's actually really bad. Like
yeah,
how
I
many kids.
well, and it's like, dude, like especially given the fact that like just look, I know that there are a lot of like I have plenty of followers that are like fucking like 11 or something on Instagram, right? And it's like I don't like that's not really my target audience and I don't post things as if that's my target audience, right? Like I'm not going to censor what I say because a small portion of my viewers are fucking 10. And that's just the reality of it. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't care enough about your fucking 10-year-old.
I don't even think we are the problem audience though. Like, or well, I guess well,
We'll just act like we didn't make that mistake.
we're not the problem group, right? Because like just to tie this to a video game example, a lot of Call of Duty like it's disgusting calling them content creators, but like I don't know if you're familiar with
Well,
like
technically, shit is considered content. So,
whatever. But are you familiar with like I think his name was Ali A and then there was T Martin?
no.
Their content, if you ever look them up, it's pure cancer. But their content was 100% targeted at like 10, 11, 12 year olds. Like they made it's bizarre to me because like our content that we create is very clearly not intended for children. I would argue that maybe our content could start to fall into the 16 and older category. I mean, like as a 16-year-old, if you stumble across butterfly knives, you might be like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. Let me follow that." But like children, not no. I don't think either of our content is targeted at children. But meanwhile, you have these like I think they're like sociopaths that are purposefully creating content that no adult in their right mind would watch, but that a kid would sit through.
Yeah. Well, there's also that, but you can have somebody in a video game who's like it's one thing if you're toxic to a 24-year-old, right? If I'm toxic to somebody my age, but if you have a 24-year-old that's being toxic and telling an 11-year-old to kill themselves because they're bad at CS:GO or something, that's really problematic. And there's nothing whatsoever that stops people from doing that. And I know that because I've seen it plenty of times. And so
Now,
I don't know what the solution is to that because I don't think there is one.
let me actually look something up because I need to see when I officially got involved in the online community. So we need to look up when Halo 2's release. Ooh, shit.
Oh, dude, Halo 2 is awesome.
Full disclosure, I may have been an 8, 9-year-old, maybe 9, maybe it had to be 9, playing not Call of Duty. I was playing Call of Duty later, but a 9-year-old playing Halo 2 online.
Yeah,
Multiplayer Halo 2.
you know, and you see how fucked up you are now, right? Like,
I think it really explains some of the dark humor tendencies because boy, oh boy, you learn to trash talk real quick. And you know what makes it so much worse? So much worse when you play against people online. They hate it so much when not only do you trash talk, but you are objectively better than them at the game that they love.
I
There's nothing worse.
well, I personally feel, and I mean, I don't know if this is ever a topic that I've talked about because how would this topic come up? But I feel quite strongly personally that I'm not saying being toxic, okay? But exactly what you're describing, I think it matters like I consider it crucial for children to learn how to banter because when you're doing that just with your friends and stuff, like it's all fun and games. And like I like to do it a lot. And so I like with some of my friends, like when I'm just talking, and you know this, right? Like there's a lot of banter back and forth. And it's all just fun. Like you're not saying something that's like you're not ever really saying something with the intent of causing hurt kind of thing. But
Well, it's like if you were like, for example, just to kind of like really drive that point home. If you were telling me to kill myself, I'd be like, okay, who are you?
right, okay, but what I'm saying is like the skills involved in being good at banter and being funny with it or whatever are nearly identical to being good at like verbal sparring with someone. Like if someone's actually like trying to shit talk you and literally you spend all of your time with your friends giving them shit and them giving you shit back and just that constant back and forth, you decimate them. It's not even funny. Like there's a huge difference between somebody
Oh,
who banters a lot and somebody who doesn't when it comes to like arguments.
100%, because I've noticed it within my friend group as well, and it's a small friend group, admittedly. But the point is, if I do some dark humor, like if I just start spitting off some very dark jokes, they're not gonna be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you said that. How could you say such like?"
Well, it's like me and talking about hooking puppies up to batteries and stuff. It's like,
Which we do not do, and this is not a call to action.
well, look,
And
I think you should only speak for yourself here, sir.
but the fact of the matter is, I probably did learn to have a relatively thick skin, and of course, I get mad. I'll get mad when someone like tries to do an affront to my integrity or my honesty with what I'm doing. But like, I also know how to handle that. It's not like when someone does that, I do a overreaction. I do the in most cases, I would say the appropriate action to really just be like, no, we're not doing this. But like, I'm also gonna like let you know that we're not doing this, and I'm gonna make it really clear that you're in no position to try to do this. Like, it really helps you that online banter, whether it be even, I mean, you could even put it into like, because man, RuneScape could that's a verbal judo type situation where like you have the online aspect of like console games like Call of Duty or Halo, but then you also had I was playing RuneScape back in the day, so people could be pretty cutthroat with that as well with the verbal attacks. Er,
Yeah, I think, obviously it's the more in person it is, the better. Although I think the principle is the same, even if it's just RuneScape and you're just typing. Like, there's a huge, I don't know. When I have kids, like, it is, I don't know, it matters a lot to me that they are good at bantering because I think it's absolutely necessary when it comes to, like, there are a lot of times, well, I don't want to say a lot of times, but there are times where and I only started really like doing a lot of bantering probably like 5 years ago, right? Like, I did not do it at all as a kid. Um, but when you're in a situation, and it usually happens like when you're not expecting it, or like you just find yourself in a situation where you're arguing with someone. If you are much more articulate than them and you're like
oh
just roasting
God,
them, anybody watching almost feels sorry for the other person. Like, you're just destroying them that badly.
it gets disgusting really quickly. It gets so disgusting that I've noticed that in some of my online exchanges that I've had, that sometimes other people just will not, they won't interject in any way. It'll just be like this bubble between you and this other person. And like, it's going so unfavorably for them that no one else really wants to get involved in that situation. The only times that I've seen other people get involved when you're really, really roasting someone is when it's kind of like this mob mentality where no matter how witty you are, no matter what words you can put together, they'll just jump on you together like a pack of dogs. Like, that's the only time I've seen it not go well.
Well, because
Which
at a certain point, if there's nobody there that is witnessing it that isn't on the side of the other person, then it really doesn't matter. Like, all you can theoretically do is just embarrass them. But they're gonna just
you
end up
hurt
with
their
their
feelings, yeah.
right, and their friends are gonna just
But
take their side anyway. Like, that's kind of a situation where there's not a whole lot you can do.
well,
Um,
the important thing there is though that I've noticed, because this can very quickly go the other way, right? So let's say you go ahead and you end up in a situation where you uh, are in a banter between someone who has a lot of people on their side, you have very few people on your side. And then they go over to your account, or like, because this can happen a lot online with people where they ending up in what they perceive to be a cyberbullying situation, where all of a sudden they start mass attacking your whatever post you have, whatever you're saying. They'll just gang up on you together, and they use this like, we have more numbers, therefore we are going to bully you, therefore we are in control here. And really, what I've noticed with that is, as long as you kind of don't go down the emotional route, but that's what banter teaches you, is you don't go down the emotional route, but what you do is you attack their emotions. You don't put emotion into your response, but you you purposefully draw out their anger, draw out their rage in order to really, really display the
Well,
buffoonery at hand.
the thing is though, even if like their friends are the only audience, you can still be quick-witted enough that even even their friends can't deny that like they're kind of being stupid, right? Like you
Well,
can
they'll
still
look
make
back
it.
on it and be like, "Wow, wasn't that
No,
fucking
but even
dumb?"
in the situation, like somebody can just like if they just have no responses, which a lot of times is what you have happen if somebody doesn't know how to banter,
Well,
like they just
it
won't
turns
have
into
a response for you. Like they'll just
it'll almost be like if you had a book of responses, like, and I think this is where you were kind of going with it, but it'd almost be like if you had a book of responses, it'd be like top 10 responses that someone who has nothing to say will use when they have nothing to say.
kind of yeah, like they'll they just won't they'll keep saying the same thing over and over is what I've found. Like they'll just use the same kind of insult and just like come up with some slight variation on it. But they're just not creative because they're not used to coming up with responses to something that somebody says on the fly, right?
Nope.
And
Nope.
so anyway, that's something that I do think is probably a benefit, but you kind of like I don't know, man. Like
But
I
the
if
opposite
it's
side of it,
your
right?
child, hold on, if it's your kid and you're getting them into like sort of like getting them to the point where they're able to banter, that's a lot different than somebody else just showing up in an online lobby with your kid and like forcing them to try to figure out how to banter because it doesn't work that way. You'll just be bullying them.
Well, yeah, no. So basically, where what I was going to add to that is it can go one of two ways. So like I didn't have any guidance as a 9-year-old playing freaking Halo. I think I was 9 when Halo 3 was released because what
You're
was it,
still
2000?
mentally pretty close to 9.
Let me think. Yeah, thanks. 2007, and then if you subtract, no, I was 11 at the time. I was 11. Um, so as an 11-year-old, it could have gone one of two ways, like, really, in my mind, where either I would have been, like, so upset by the experience I had that I was just like, "No, just keep me unplugged from the microphone," or the way that it did go, I'm like, "No, I'm just gonna learn to deal with this. This is just normal in the context of gaming." I just took it as
Well,
this is
what
normal
I
in the
do is when I meet somebody, right, and I'm like just kind of like trying to get a read for how they are, you never start by giving them shit, really. You always start by giving yourself shit, and then you just sort of see whether they join in and can sort of start bantering. A lot, like I would say most people can't. Like they just don't really know how to, like, they don't know what to do. Like they'll laugh when you make jokes about yourself, but they're either too nervous to make jokes at your expense or at their expense or whatever. But you don't like I personally like never really start with giving somebody shit because then it just seems like bullying.
Oh, for sure.
So I always start just by giving myself shit and then like kind of getting a sense for how they respond, whether they're going to actually. And I mainly like to be friends with people who can banter. Like I have friends who don't, but I just don't find it as fun as people who do.
That's a good point where sometimes it's good to put a feeler out or let someone else let you know that they're good with it.
Right. See if there's going to be a connection. You like, does this person like hooking puppies up to batteries? You like hooking cats up to batteries?
I was gonna say, is it a thrill to throw used car batteries into the ocean or not?
Oh, see, when you were talking about throwing stuff into the ocean, I was immediately thinking of puppies again. So
I was
clearly
thinking
there's a
used car
disconnect.
batteries, which is a legal thrill.
Is it?
I don't think it's
Wait.
illegal to throw
Oh,
used car
dude.
batteries into the
What if
ocean. I
you
really
hook
don't.
up a puppy to a used car battery and then throw both of them into the ocean?
I'm pretty sure that's illegal.
I don't know, dude. You could probably find some place in South America to do it.
I'm actually curious though. Okay, so I love this. I love
What?
this. So I looked up someone asked the used car battery question. They're like, "Is it okay to do this? Is it good for the environment?" And someone just responded, "What kind of moron would do that?"
Well, I don't think it's legal in most places. Like it'd be considered dumping.
Wait, it gets even better. They say there is no law stating that I can't throw turtles out of a helicopter. There shouldn't have to be.
Well, I mean, it's probably animal cruelty or something.
That's what I was thinking. Like that one kind of like
Like I think there is a law against it.
you can't just do mean things to animals
Although to be
unwarranted.
fair, one thing that I've done is you throw a roll of toilet paper out of the plane and then you see how many times you can cut it before it gets too low.
That seems like an exciting thrill.
It is. It's great. You know,
Yeah,
um,
I just I'm actually curious how many responses there are to this question.
which one?
The used car battery question.
Well, can't you just click on it and see?
There's a whole bunch of memes about it. There's a ton of memes about throwing your
Why?
used car I don't know. I just heard about it in passing.
Oh my god. Throwing carbon out of the ocean is good for the environment as they charge electric eels and power the Gulf Stream. Wow. I can't believe this
Oh.
is a meme. That's so fucking.
So risque.
Oh my god. Pop Goes the Hamster and other fun microwave games.
Oh yeah, other fun microwave games as if it gets better.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. Oh no. So I mean, it goes to the point where there is a compilation of 50 throwing your used car batteries into the ocean memes.
God, that's such a like weird meme topic.
Though it is a safe and legal thrill.
No, it is not. There's no way it's safe and there's no way it's legal.
I
Can you
haven't
imagine how like losing your fucking footing?
what, throwing a car battery? It's
Yeah.
not that heavy. I mean, I have a Honda, so it's not that
I mean,
heavy.
I kind of feel like you have to be standing at least somewhat close to the edge, and anytime you're throwing any kind of like thing that's bigger than like a ball, it requires both hands, which requires you to like kind of do the little swing and toss thing.
Well, just if it hits the
Look,
ground
you know
before
what? How
falling.
about you just experiment a bit with it? Let me know what you find. Okay.
Well, it'd be like a bowling ball where like it could hit the ground and then roll to the destination needed.
Oh, puppies do that sometimes. It's great.
Oh my god.
Um, but yeah, like I don't know. So I gotta bounce here in a minute. Is there anything else you want to topic on or talk about on the who the fuck knows topic?
I think we closed on a winner here, and I'm going to send you a message in the Discord here that I think you will quite enjoy.
Okay.
Maybe not, but I'm gonna lean towards you're gonna like this.
Are you gonna send it?
I'm sending it now.
You should really send it.
Full send. Full send.
What the fuck? What is... Jesus, man. There's nothing that can be done to help you at this point. Cool. Well, yeah, well, hopefully, I doubt anybody would get to this point, but, you know, if they do, then, yeah, they're probably just as deranged as we are. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's always a good sign, I suppose.
Yeah,
So,
comment if you made it this far, please.
yeah, let me know if any other 7-year-olds try to kill you. That I would pay to watch that personally.
I'm sure most people would.
God, how many 7-year-olds with swords do you think you could fight off?
With like
With kid-sized swords, like not
Am
like
I-
the fucking.
Okay, do I get the luxury of having jeans, and do I get the luxury of having like
No, you get a speedo.
I
What
get a
the fuck?
speedo?
I
That's
don't
it.
care. What?
Have you? A kid's probably not going to be able to generate enough force to actually like slash through my leg. They'd have to stab.
What?
They'd have to stab it.
Dude, I don't know, man. I think a 7-year-old could put enough force into a blade that it would cut through jeans.
But what if I close the distance?
Yeah, well, how do you close the distance on a massive group of fucking 7-year-olds without getting fucking wrecked?
Honestly, what I would need to do is quickly close on one kid and just take whatever hit I did.
Grab him by the neck and swing him above your head. Launch him at the others.
I would need to like just basically like break that kid's neck immediately, pick up his sword, and then just start molly-whopping whatever kid was around me.
Yeah, he's just like, hey, see Jimmy? This is you. This is
Well,
you. If you
Well,
fuck
because
with me.
I'd have the reach advantage, but if I was barred from being able to pick up the sword, I don't like it depends on how many kids were allowed to come in each wave, but
Who says there's a wave? Maybe they just all come at once.
maybe
Jesus.
3 kids. If it was they all come at once, maybe 3 kids before I go down.
I mean, this would be if the 7-year-olds are like fucking dead set on going after you, because the reality is, once one 7-year-old is down, like the other ones aren't going to want to come anywhere near you. They're going to be like, I'm going to go away. So, you know. But yeah, we should try that sometime.
Oh yeah, of course.
So, you know, yeah, when you're next time you're babysitting, let me know. Oh my god. Oh Jesus. Cool. Well, yeah, hopefully this was informative for people. Do you want to leave your babysitting contact information?
Nah, I don't think I will.
Okay, cool. Well, have a good stream. Have a good night, everybody.